All right, so welcome to the Collector Car Podcast. This is my big Monterey edition. So this is when I cover a lot of the cars that caught my eye coming up to Monterey this coming week. Now, I will say this has been very difficult because you'll be like, why didn't you pick that car? Why didn't you pick this car? I'm trying not to pick necessarily the most obvious cars, the most expensive cars, but I am picking them for a couple different reasons. One is I just like the car. The other one might be I've never seen one come to auction before. Another reason might be the fact that they're interesting in the marketplace right now. So I'll call out the Ferrari Enzo. Those are very interesting right now, so I'm curious to see what happens with those. So a lot of different reasons. I can only pick out so many for this episode. I picked 3 to 5 per auction house. So I am trying to be pretty diverse. I do pick some early cars. I do pick some modern hypercars, some modern supercars, and I do pick some of the big cars that are the biggest sales for the entire week because I want you to know about those, that those have come up for auction. But before we get to that, I would like to welcome a new sponsor to the podcast, Supercar Claims. So take a listen to their commercial. Please support them. They offer a very unique business proposition for those of you who have had to make a claim on your car in the past. And then we'll get to the show. Imagine 2 identical vehicles, same year, options, mileage, price, and possibly even color. The only difference? One had $15,000 in collision repairs. Which one would you buy? The undamaged one, because clean vehicle history preserves value. That's what diminished value is, the loss of your vehicle's worth after an accident, even if it's repaired perfectly. SupercarClaims.com can assist owners nationwide in the recovery of diminished value and loss of use due to the negligence of another party. When it comes to exotic, collectible, and high-end vehicles, damage history will significantly reduce resale value. Don't let a dirty vehicle cost you. They are not just lawyers, they are car enthusiasts and collectors fighting for your rightful compensation. Free consultation, performance-based services. You don't pay unless we win for you. Now, the first auction house we're going to start with is Broad Arrow. And the reason I picked this one first, a couple different reasons. One of them is because a friend of mine, Clint Sly, did a really nice article and posted on LinkedIn about a week ago. So I'm going to lead off with this because I thought it was a really interesting point he made. Broad Arrow is running its Monterey Car Week sale at a new home this year. After 4 years building a reputation at the Monterey Gent Center, they've moved to the Quail, which was a big deal. The biggest thing he points out is that for 2026, there's 186 lots, nearly half the catalog, 48.9%, is offered without reserve. And here's what really caught my eye. Last year, Broad Arrow sold $57.4 million at an 80% sell-through rate. Run this catalog through the same math. No reserve lots essentially guaranteed to sell. Reserve lots back solved to match that 80% blend rate, and the reserve segment needs to convert at roughly 61%. That gets you to a projected $94.3 million, a 64% increase over the previous year. New venue, bigger catalog, more of it without reserve, and a headline no reserve Enzo leading Friday session. If the room shows up the way it did last year, this could be Broad Arrow's best Quail yet. Well, their first Quail, their best Monterey yet, and by a wider margin than it looked a few days ago. So I thought that was a really interesting point. So let's kick it off with that Enzo. So this 2003 Ferrari Enzo, the estimate is $9 to $11 million, offered without reserve, which you might think that's crazy. But I think this is one of those cars you can definitely do it without a reserve. Great colors, one of just a dozen U.S. delivery Enzos finished in Nero. Among those, only 3 trimmed in Rosso leather interior, so black with red leather interior. That's incredible. 3 documented caretakers from new. Recently treated to an extensive servicing and detailing in excess of $80,000. Classic A certified. Serviced throughout its life by authorized Ferrari dealers, including Newport Beach, Denver, and Scottsdale. It's showing just over 13,000 miles at the time of cataloging. So I think this one is a no-brainer to have at no reserve. Incredible colors. We'll see if it hits the high side of that estimate of $11 million. All right, next one, we're going old school. I'm not going to mention too many Ferraris during this podcast, but I do have to mention just a few. One of my favorites of all time, the 1966 Ferrari 275 GTB, but this is a special one. This is an alloy one. And I'm wondering how these are doing because alloy cars were over $4 million not that long ago. The estimate on this one's $2.7 to $3 million. One of approximately 60 alloy body examples of the twin cam 275 GTB, so not as rare as the 4-cam version. Restored in its original Rosso Rubino with an exceptionally well-preserved Pella Nera interior. Ferrari Classic A Red Book certified, retaining its original engine, transaxle, and body. and it's been well cared for ever since. Stunning colors, $2.7 to $3 million. All right, next is another old school car. Absolutely love this car. 1954 Maserati A6 GCS. Estimate is 2.4 to 2.9. I picked this one again just because Italian cars, European cars, cars from the 50s, even American cars and the 60s have been flat or declining. I'm curious on how the recent trends will affect something with a lot of history. So, retained by the factory for works competition during the 1954 season, has a remarkable racing period, which is very, very cool. Sold to Argentina in 1955, continued period racing, comprehensively and authentically restored. It was scanned and audio recorded by Sony Computer Entertainment Group for its inclusion in the Gran Turismo video game series, appearing in Gran Turismo 7. That's very cool. The 25th of just 52 Maserati A6 GCS examples built. Cherished and current devoted enthusiast ownership for nearly 3 decades. Just a beautiful car. I'm very curious to see where this lands. Again, the estimate's $2.4 to $2.9 million. All right, we'll do more Broad Arrow on site during Monterey Car Week next week. And there's a couple big Porsches and some other stuff we'll definitely cover there. But these last two are JDM cars, and one of them I've never seen before. So I'm really curious to see what these do. This is the 1994 Toyota TRD 3000 GT. Never heard of this car before in my life. Estimates $500,000 to $800,000. One of 35 factory-built TRD 3000 GTs and the singular recorded example built to U.S. specifications. One of the rarest and most desirable variants of the iconic fourth-generation Supra. I would say so. If you're listening only, it looks like a Supra with some body kits attached to it. Long-term ownership in Japan and Denmark, recently imported back to the United States in July of 2026. Fitted with exclusive TRD bodywork and a large catalog of special TRD components. Yeah, this thing looks pretty wicked. And this next one is another iconic JDM car, the 1996 Nissan Nismo 400R. The estimate's $800,000 to $950,000. The first time I saw one of these was last year when RM Sotheby's sold one that hit $1 million. The 20th of just 44 limited edition 400Rs produced, built to celebrate the R33 GTR 24 hours of Le Mans racing accomplishments. Nearly 3 decades of ownership in Japan, recently imported to the United States. Powered by the Le Mans-derived RBX GT2 twin-turbo straight-six, producing 400 horsepower, striking sonic silver exterior. Among the rarest and most collectible Japanese cars ever made. Very, very cool. A lot of cool stuff happening at Broad Arrow. Like I said, I will have more next week as I walk around Broad Arrow and talk about some of the cars. And stick around. I might have a big announcement coming soon. If you're a collector, you already understand stewardship, preserving what matters, planning ahead, and passing things on the right way. That's exactly how Peristyle Wealth approaches financial planning. As the Ferrari Club of America's official wealth management partner, they help avid collectors who value resilience and attention to detail. And the founder, John Suarez, is active in the community. I've judged one of his cars before, and I see him at events all over the country. To learn more, go to peristylewealth.com. Peristyle Wealth advisory services offered through New Edge Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor.
Every garage is a mirror of the mind that builds it. The garage becomes a quiet dialogue between who you are and what you craft. A garage is where work becomes meditation and solace, where mechanical truth becomes mental clarity. Some people go to offices, some go to mountains, others go to garages. At Metron Garage, we build for people who do all three. Give us a call to get started.
If you own a collector car, you already know it deserves more than a standard insurance policy. NCM Insurance specializes in agreed value coverage designed specifically for classic collector and enthusiast vehicles. From weekend drivers to serious collectors, they understand how these cars are used, stored, and protected. To learn more about protecting your collector car the right way, visit ncminsurance.com. Coverage built for the cars you care about. Every car in your garage tells a story, where it's been, how it's been maintained, and what makes it truly yours. Carport gives you a simple digital garage to document, organize, and manage your vehicles all in one place. Track service history, store important records, and keep your collection dialed in with confidence. From your daily driver to your dream car, Carport keeps everything in order so you're always ready for the road. And best of all, it's free to use and is 100% private. To learn more, go to carport.app. All right, if you're going to Monterey, you definitely have to talk about RM Sotheby's, as they always have some heavy hitters. And this one's going to be very interesting, as it's the new, very controversial Ferrari Luce, 2026 Ferrari Luce TaylorMade. Now, this is a one-off that was built strictly to auction off as a nonprofit charity car. So all of the proceeds above the sticker price, around $640,000, will go towards Ferrari's charity of choice. An unrepeatable opportunity to acquire Chassis Zero, the first production chassis of the Ferrari Luce program. Ferrari will donate all proceeds of this charity auction to benefit future educational initiatives through the Ferrari Foundation, a recognized 501c3 public charity. Uniquely configured through the Ferrari TaylorMade program. A special exterior livery now has a really crazy Italian name. I'm just going to call it Nice White. Developed specifically for this car over an interior that also is a very complicated name. Exclusive finishing details including dedicated wheels, bespoke brake calipers, and the Ferrari logo set against an optical white background. Now, what I will say is this is a tough one to guess on what it will sell for. We saw that last year with the SP3. That SP3 was worth $3.5 to $4 million, and it sold for $26 million. Now, they put the value in excess of $1.1 million. I would probably put it a lot higher. If someone who maybe had a bunch of car dealerships and sold them recently needs a big taxable write-off, it could go big. I'm just going to make the wild guess that this is going to sell for $3.2 million. All right, next is one of my favorite cars of all time. This is from the Patterson collection. The 1963 Chevrolet Corvette Grand Sport estimates $11 to $13 million. One of just 5 legendary Corvette Grand Sports constructed and the first of only 3 Grand Sport coupes. One of the most significant factory-built competition Corvettes ever created, engineered as a purpose-built sports racing prototype with hundreds of unique components different than any production Stingray. It had 3 SCCA class victories during the 1963 season. So just an incredible, wonderful Chevrolet, probably the most iconic one ever built. Now there's only 5 of these. 2 of them are roadsters. This is one of the 3 coupes. Can't wait to see where this one goes. Had to be difficult to come up with the estimate on that one. $11 to $13 million. I think the last one sold publicly for around 5, maybe. I could be wrong on that. But wicked. A ton of really cool period photos included in the posting. Now the big one for the RM Sotheby's sale is this, the 1996 McLaren F1 GTR owned by Nick Mason, called the Pop Art F1. Value in excess of $35 million. The only McLaren F1 GTR with factory livery, crafted with this 1990s pop art influence design in scarlet and yellow, making 10R instantly the most recognizable of all McLaren F1s. I don't know. I think they're all pretty recognizable. Initially retained by the McLaren factory, acquired in 1999 by rock and roll legend Nick Mason of Pink Floyd, who enjoyed the car for 25 years. Converted by the McLaren factory for road use. Yeah, this is very interesting. You know, as these mega collectors get older, such as Nick Mason and Patterson, they're going to start liquidating their collection. And we also see that RM Sotheby's here in a moment with the Sandman collection. And as these come to market, sometimes for the first time, it'll be very interesting to see where they hammer. But what an incredible car. Now, speaking of the Sam and Emily Mann collection, this is one of the best. The 1935 Duesenberg Model JN convertible coupe by Rolston and Bonham and Schwartz. Estimates $5.7 to $8 million. Built for legendary actor Clark Gable, the King of Hollywood. Restyled to Gable's wishes, a truly bespoke commission. Used extensively by Gable with his beloved wife, Carol Lombard. Best of show at the Amelia Island in Meadowbrook Concours d'Elegance, among the most beautiful, historic, and romantic of all Duesenbergs. I had a conversation with someone at the AACA who definitely knows what they're talking about, and he said the word on the street is that this estimate's really low based on the rarity and significance of this Duesenberg. And I don't know, top estimate $8 million. This is, again, another interesting point to see where are these cars going in the future as the generational shift occurs. Will this hit the low estimate? Will it overachieve and go above the high estimate? We will find out very shortly. Again, last from RM Sotheby's, this will be another one that will be an interesting bellwether of where the market is. 1934 Packard 110812 individual. 1934 Packard 110812 individual custom sport Phaeton by LeBaron, estimates $4 to $5 million. among the ultimate American automobiles of the classic era. One of four surviving original authentic examples, breathtakingly beautiful and advanced design, formerly owned by Harrah's Automobile Collection and General William Lyon. Still wearing its Harrah's Gold Star restoration, original chassis, engine, and coachwork. Now, I found this out a couple years ago when I interviewed Ken Gross, and we talked about the Harrah collection. Back when that existed, Mr. Harrah would deem a different level of restoration depending on the rarity of the car. He might say, I need a silver star restoration, a bronze star, or a gold star. And gold star, I believe, was the highest level of restoration, meaning I want to take this to Concours events and I want to win. So again, $4 to $5 million. We will see where it ends. Did I say the Grand Sport was one of my favorite cars of all time? Yes, I did. But what actually beats it and competed with it in period is this car at Gooding, the 1964 Shelby Cobra Daytona Coupe. Now, when I saw this pop up, it totally blew my mind. These are extremely rare, and they rarely ever come up for sale. Estimate is in excess of $25 million. Among the most important American automobiles ever built, one of only 6 Cobra Daytona Coupes created to defeat Ferrari's 250 GTOs. Debuted at the 1964 Tour de France, key participant in Shelby America's historic 1965 FIA GT Championship season, the only Cobra Daytona Coupe to continue its competition career beyond Shelby America's factory program, racing successfully in Japan through 1968. Carroll Shelby's personal Daytona Coupe, that's interesting, from 1975 to 1998, the only example ever owned by its creator. Beautiful, thrilling, and historic dual-purpose GT car eligible for premier international concours and vintage races, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to acquire a true automotive icon. I definitely agree with that. All right, right after it is the 1963 Ferrari 250P, estimates $15 to $20 million. The first P car, Ferrari's original mid-engine V12 sports racing prototype, debuted at Monza and retained by Scuderia Ferrari for the 1963 season, second overall at the 12 Hours of Sebring, and third overall at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1963. A centerpiece of one of North America's foremost Ferrari collections since 1988, among the most significant Ferrari competition cars ever offered at auction. I would agree with that. And a very gorgeous car. I would prefer the GTO and the short wheelbase over this, but this is amazing with the rear engine V12. All right, next we're staying in the 60s. The 1968 Porsche 907 Langheck. I don't think I'm saying that correctly. Anyways, $4.5 to $5.5 million. Historically significant as the first Porsche to win a 24-hour race outright. Features ultra-streamlined, long-tail bodywork and exotic 4-cam flat 8. Winner of the 1968 24 Hours of Daytona. Second overall at the 1968 Monza 1000K. All right, and then I have to pick one of my sport utes of all time, the 1988 Lamborghini LM002. Now, this one's interesting because I'm curious to see where these goes. Typically, they sell in the $350,000 to $450,000 range. Last year, the year before, one really rang the bell at like $700,000. It wasn't even original paint or original wheels. A celebrity bought it and got into a bidding war. So that drove the price up overall. Curious to see if they stay that way. One of only 328 examples built, the final evolution of the carbureted Lamborghini V12, signed by legendary Valentino Balboni, outfitted with factory luggage toolkit and Americana wheels, and accompanied by Pirelli Scorpion sand tires. So that's the hard part. For the Scorpion tires, they only make them like every 5 years, and it's a limited amount, and they charge a lot of money for it. All right, Gooding also has a really cool 1996 Vector M12. You know, I like these Vectors. They're kind of ugly. They're not great cars, but I actually visited the factory back when these were built, and they only made 14 of them. So I'll throw a couple pictures up here as well. And I will do a podcast or a newsletter about my visit to the Vector factory back in the day at some point. All right, the estimate's $200,000 to $300,000, offered without reserve. Exceedingly rare, as just one of 14 production examples built. The final production model from an innovative American supercar manufacturer, powered by a Lamborghini 5.7 V12 paired with a 5-speed manual transaxle. Among the rarest supercars of the 90s. And what was interesting, when I took the tour, they had one of the Lamborghini, I believe, Diablo engines on a stand. I'm like, well, how much does that cost? And it cost them $38,000 back in the early 1990s. And last for Gooding, this 1994 Mercedes-Benz E500 Limited. Now this is the driver's edit. Not sure what that means. Offered without reserve, $175,000 to $225,000. I picked this because this is one of the Mercedes I would love to have one day. Yes, it's a four-door. One of 951 examples built for the 1994 model year. The ultimate W124 developed in collaboration with Porsche, low mileage example showing approximately 31,000 miles, finished in sapphire black with two-tone upholstery and Evo 2 wheels. So this is just a beautiful car, great colors, and I'd love to put in my garage. All right, so now let's end with Mecum. I'm a big fan of Mecum. I've never made it to their Monterey sale. I hope to do so this coming week, but there's some cool stuff here. Now, I said I tried not to mention too many Ferraris, but I have to mention them with Mecum. There's going to be like 3 Enzos for sale over the weekend, so that'll be an interesting read. And Mecum has this one, this really nice 1996 F50. Now, these have been breaking records lately, especially in this one of only 31 Gallo Modena colors, i.e. yellow. But this is number 239 of 349 produced, all original chassis, engine, gearbox, bodywork, delivered new to Switzerland, and it has less than 7,300 kilometers. It has Nero bucket seats. That's pretty cool. Ferrari Classic K with red book. It even has rare original F50 driving boots. Now get this, a size 7.5. There's no way my size 11s would fit in there. It does also include the luggage. So this one will be very interesting to see how it does, because it'll give us a read on where this F50 market is right now. All right, and then I did want to cover one Carrera GT. This one at Mecum is a 2005 Carrera GT. Now this one states it only has 370 miles. Now it's a beautiful color combo. The regular color combo you see on most of them. GT silver metallic with dark gray interior. The terracotta is the color I would prefer on a GT silver metallic car, but these are so awesome and iconic. They've gone through the roof, with Broad Arrow selling one for around $6 million. Special paint to sample color. I believe it was the only one in that color. But like I said, this one has 370 miles. This one I picked just to see where the market is on a more traditional color on a Carrera GT. So we will see. And the last one from Mecum I'll cover is this really cool 1997 Toyota Land Cruiser. The key point here is it states it only has 4,700 miles. Automatic, inline 6. These have just gone through the roof because you can drive these to like 300, 350,000 miles. Even ones that are around 150,000 miles are selling for around $15,000 to $18,000. So 100,000 miles less, what is this going to bring? Now, if I had to guess, this is a tough one. I bet it's going to sell for a bargain, and I bet it's going to sell for around 65 grand. I think this is one of those cars that just might fall through the cracks. When I was at Indianapolis Mecum, there was a 2014 Toyota FJ with only, I think, 12,000 miles on it, and it sold for $44,000. FJ's my favorite. I drive one every day. I should have bought that car and just replaced mine because mine has 114,000 miles on it. So we'll see if this one falls through the cracks or not. All right, and lastly, one car I wanted to call out because there's only 63 of them made, but there's 3 of them being sold in Monterey next week is the Lamborghini Sion. These are very rare. I brought this car up because they're kind of a hard car to sell. One was sold last year with RM Sotheby's, and I know from what I know about that sale, it was a little difficult just because it's a very specific clientele for these cars. And with 3 of them on offer the same week, I'm really curious to see how they do. So keep your eyes on the Lamborghini Sion. As always, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, thanks for reading. If you haven't gotten your copy of The Enthusiast Guide to Collector Cars, there is a link in this description, and I will talk to all of you next week.